I've come out here to the mountains of Andorra to test Commencal's Meta SX 800 with the Bosch CX Gen 5. Let's take this bike for a first ride in these epic mountains and see how it performs in this review on loamwolf.com. Let's go.
The first time I went riding with the bike, it was in winter. I didn't ride for a long time, and I was feeling like if I was on like the confidence you have when you ride a downhill bike, you know, like pushing so hard in the corners, like letting the bike go. And I was with a mate. I didn't ride for a long time. Like, what's going on? You know, like. So I think that's the thing I like the most. The fact that you can push and you will always be there. You know, like no matter what.
So 180 mil travel on both ends, mixed wheels.
How much travel you said?
180.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you said 120. Oh.
So obviously a big hitting bike. Yeah. What was it designed for? Who did you design it for?
The idea was to make a bike that is like where you can go in the mountain, you can pedal easily, and then you just like whatever super techy trails or more flowy trails, you're gonna just be comfortable on the bike. So a bike that inspires lots of confidence for any kind of user. You know, not a beginner bike, but a bike that is really friendly to use, really easy. And in the end, it's good for everybody.
Outside of the long travel, what elements of the design do you think make it good and easy to both climb and descend on?
Geometry for sure, travel in itself, but what we call the VCS, the virtual contact system, it's really important in that regard. So in the end, we have quite some progression on the leverage ratio. It's also the leverage ratio is quite high as well. So it really makes a bike that is like supple and really forgiving. So that's the idea around the kinematics here. Geometry, we don't go too far, like not super slack, not super long, like not super low in BB, because obviously an e-bike you pedal a lot and everywhere, so you don't want to go too low in BB. And it's a kind of a heavier bike than a normal bike, the same, like we don't go to really long reach, so it's pretty conservative, I would say. I think we are on the medium side, if I don't mistake. Pardon me if I'm wrong, but it should be 455 millimeters. So yeah. It's good, and it's not like super short, obviously, but it's not super long. The head angle should be 64.2. I need to remember, but the bike is sitting quite a lot on the back. People just look always at the static geometry, and we look more at the dynamic geometry, how the bike handles like most of the time in the travel. Yeah. And you don't want to get something too slack. Also the same way, bike that is heavier, so. We need to have a bike that is also easy to, in the corners, everywhere, to change angles. So in the end, having a really slack angle on this bike just make it really sluggish and not so easy to ride. When you have a steeper head tube angle, then it's not that easy that your fork is gonna dive. You know, like if you have a really slack angle, it's easy that you go through the travel when you brake. The forces, everything combined together makes it like a kind of an anti-dive. System, I would say. Like,
interesting.
It's let's say not to go too far. Like we don't want to go 63.5 on this bike. We always find like on enduro bikes, like 64, around 64 is always like kind of a sweet spot. You can get 63.8, 64.2, you know, something like that. 64 is good. Then if you go steeper, then you feel the bike is like not so lacks confidence. Yeah. And too slack, then the bike is kind of hard. You always need to be so much on the front, you know, like push, and like if you ride in the mud and that day where you're a bit more sketchy and you just want to let the bike go, then you need to be so active that it sometimes makes it difficult. So we think it's a good sweet spot, I would say.
Nice. And then for the climbing aspects of the geometry and the kinematics, yeah, I've felt so far that it's quite nice going up the hill on super steep terrain. You don't have to weight the front end too much, whereas some bikes you just feel like the front end's going all over the place. I guess part of that's to do with the head tube angle. But what about the pedaling performance and the kinematic?
There are two aspects, for sure. Geometry wise, when you have a slack angle, head tube angle, that's the same. You feel like the bike's so easy to like kind of flip from one side to the other. Of course, steep tube angle, but the same, not too steep, because then when you ride like flatter terrain and you feel so much on the front, and then you want to lower your saddle because you don't feel comfortable, and then it's not so. It's always a matter of balance, I would say. And then in terms of kinematic, we have higher chain effects than what we have on the regular bikes. Okay. because we want that pedaling effect and that the bike not too high neither, because then after you can lose some grip when you climb. That gives really the effect of a bike that is really easy to pedal, I would say. And the same what you said, in steep climbs, to avoid the bike to sit too much in the travel, and then you lose the front end, and then
I've found that when you're pedaling uphill so far, it feels really quite comfortable and sensitive. Sure. Is that sensitivity just mainly coming from the leverage ratio then, and then
it's
the
always,
anti-squats?
It's always a mix, you have to balance the leverage ratio and the anti-squat, let's say. I always say chain effects because anti-squat depends a lot on your center of gravity. So if you're tall or smaller, it's always gonna be a little bit different. So we always look more at chain effects in general. But yeah, it's a balance between the progressivity, the leverage ratio, the how high is the leverage ratio, and of course your shock tune, and that chain effect.
So Nathan, who is the Meta SX 800 for?
If you want to have a very comfortable bike that can climb very, very well, this bike is for you. And the fact that the battery is a big battery, you can project yourself on a very long ride. Maybe not for the racer, but for people who want to discover most of the trail in one day, like we are doing right now in Andorra. Adventure bike, also Commencal. So a very, very fun bike that you're gonna enjoy to ride.
We are living in Andorra. It's very steep, so we needed a bike with more power. So we decided to go with the new CX from Bosch and 800 battery, everything integrated.
What would be the general themes of the build specs that you've put together on this bike?
So the specs the builds are really simple. So we'll have one build with RockShox, one build with Fox. So the one you're testing is the Meta SX 800 RockShox. So the price will be around 8,500 euros. So it's coming with the ZEB, the Super Deluxe, DT wheels, TRP brakes, and Maxxis tires. And the other one will come with the new Float X2, Fox 48, and the same Maxxis, DT Swiss, TRP, and one up. We wanted with this bike only reliable parts. So to have any issue when you are going to ride in the middle of nowhere. So this is really the topic. The ZEB, coming with the ZEB and the Super Deluxe, this combo is really comfortable. We work a lot on the suspension, on the kinematic, but also the internal seating of this shock to have something. It's comfortable, it's very good in downhill, and really grippy and sticky. So it's not the bike made for crazy jumps or stuff like that. This afternoon we will do 20 minutes downhill after the big climb. Sorry. But yeah, with this bike, I think you will be like less tired than a really like a sharpy bike. Okay. There is 0 parts in carbon.
And what's your kind of take on the reasoning for that?
The reason is first the carbon. We are not super fan of the carbon. We can with this bike, for example, if you want to change the frame next year, we can do it. We are not stuck with the molds, so it's good. We can adjust the geometry, the kinematics. The second reason, when you go in the middle of nowhere with a carbon handlebar, if you crack it, it's done. You cannot come back. With the aluminum, it's for that it's better. And for the wheels, the same. We are not super fan of carbon rims. If you crack them, it's done. On aluminum wheels, you can just bend them, and it's okay. You can keep going and ride. So yeah, it's also our philosophy at Commencal to do 0 carbon. We are winning World Cups without carbon. We are on enduro and downhill, so I think this is a good choice here.
Yeah, and if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, we're going to sit down with Max Commencal and interview and really find out why Commencal is all for metal. So make sure you check out that video too. Matt, thank you so much, man.
Thanks a lot.
Super excited to get out riding with you.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. So then, that's the end of the first ride that I've had on board the Commencal Meta Power SX 800. And what a fun ride that's been here in Andorra, riding on Commencal local trails and really taking it to its limits, I think, at least the limits that I'm never going to be able to get to on it. Some incredibly technical uphills and some super technical, steep, rough and rowdy downhills. But it took it all in its stride, and I think from the very first moment that I hopped onto the Commencal, I was able just to feel quite at home, and that really was a feeling that continued throughout the testing. This isn't a bike that has a really sharp edge to it. It's not a bike that makes you feel the need to push it really hard to get the best out of it. Instead, it errs on the slightly more comfortable side, the kind of side that's going to keep you feeling fresher for longer, feeling less fatigued on the descents, and just the amount of grip that was on tap. Just the sensitivity of both ends of the suspension, the overall geometry was fairly nicely balanced, and it has been an absolute riot of a time. Where it doesn't maybe quite hit the strongest of marks is going to be in the more playful overall riding, in the kind of riding where you're really trying to push the limits of a certain piece of track. It's not the bike that's going to necessarily win short bursts of racing. Over a longer day of enduro racing, the extra comfort, the extra energy that it saves you over longer descents might come into its own, and it might start rewarding you from that aspect. But it's not a bike that has, you know, this really harsh feeling. It's not a bike that gives you an insane amount of support. Instead, it errs on the more comfortable and plush side of things. And that has been a really pleasurable time, especially on some of the bike park stuff here. It's been super blown out. The rougher holes in the bike park have just been muted really nicely. And then you just end up focusing on where the grip is and just looking a little bit further down the trail instead of really having to pick exactly where you're going. In some of the roughest and rowdiest stuff where, you know, it was really just holding on for dear life, the Commencal had my back. I think it's definitely going to be the kind of bike that, if you're not quite such an advanced rider, is going to give you that little bit more confidence, that little bit more of a safety barrier to push your limits. Whereas if you're on the more advanced side of things, you're going to be riding this bike and really rewarded for the comfort aspect of it, but not necessarily the overall maximum speed you're going to be able to get out of this bike on a certain bit of trail. Overall though, this bike has ran absolutely dialed. The climbing geometry has been a pleasure. It really helped to keep that front end pinned down to the ground on the steepest terrain, a nice centered seating position, plenty of power from the Bosch motor. A really surprising blend of being quite efficient on the pedals, but still giving you enough sensitivity and traction. And I think that's a combination of fairly high anti-squat, but also a nice progressive and high leverage ratio earlier in the travel, which helps the shock break into its travel and gives you the comfort through that way. But then the chain effects, as Nico was saying earlier, gives you the support for when you're pedaling and just makes it that little bit easier to time your pedal strokes. And then on the descents, the bike just felt dialed, so muted, nice and quiet, and just gave you that blend of confidence, but still enough fun having that. Even in the bike park stuff, once speeds got up especially, I was still able to have a play about with this bike and still have a lot of fun. I think the specs that Commencal have selected for this bike are really smart. Going for the mechanical drivetrain just gives you that little bit more, I don't know, mechanical reassurance. You don't have to worry about an extra battery on the bike or, you know, potentially failing electronics in the long run. It helps to shave a little bit from the cost, of course, as well. Things like the TRP brakes are absolutely solid performers. Some of our favorites here at Loam Wolf, so it was great to see them spec'd. And then the RockShox suspension package, you can't really go wrong. It's been absolutely dialed, really nice, comfortable and super plush, but still giving you that control when you're pushing it harder. So big kudos to Commencal for putting this spec together and making for an absolutely solid performer when you're on the way up and down the hill. A huge thanks to Commencal for having us out here in Andorra to film this first ride review. It's been an absolute riotous time, had an incredible time on the trail with the Commencal team, and a really fun time putting this bike through its paces. I think if you're in the market for an e-bike that's going to give you lots of comfort and traction going up the hill, and then the same exact response going down the hill, the Commencal Metapower SX 800 is a solid call. And of course, with that Bosch motor, its renowned reliability, decent range, good control, it's a solid e-bike offering and a bike that I'm looking forward to hopefully getting more time on in the future for a proper long-term review. Thank you so much guys for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Give us a like if you have. Leave us a comment, let us know if there's anything that I've missed that you want to know about the Commencal Metapower SX 800, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more awesome content on awesome bikes like this. Thank you for watching. Catch you out on the trails.